Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our presentation of the sixth pillar of innovation, the sustainability pillar. Our standard disclaimer is in place. These training sessions are intended to give you the best understanding of our products. However, please keep in mind that things change rapidly and may become out of date. Our agenda today will be our introduction. We will then pass to the presentation facilitator, who will give us a company presentation overview, take us on a journey through the pillars of innovation, introduce our sixth pillar of innovation, the sustainability pillar. He will then present from the fleet manager some case studies based on sustainability, and before closing, we will go through a question and answer session. Please add your questions to the menu, and we will cover these at the end of the presentation. Your facilitators today are Abhinav Vasu, the UK and Ireland Solution Engineering Manager, and myself, Robert Lamont, the UK and Ireland Sales Manager. I will now pass you over to Abhinav to take you through the presentation. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good morning. This is Abhinav Vasu, the Solution Engineering Manager of the UK and Ireland. Thank you, Robert, for the introduction. What I want to take you guys through first is a very quick journey and background on Geotab and who we are. Geotab is now a world leader in connected vehicles. We pride ourselves as being an engineering company built on analytics, fleet management, and IoT solutions. Geotab was started in the year 2000 by our CEO, Neil Cos, and the journey of 20 years has been pretty fantastic for Neil Cos and everyone else working with Geotab. We now have more than 400 partners and a flourishing ecosystem where we're all interconnected. We all work together towards the betterment and towards doing good for society. Geotab now has 1,200 employees. When I started a year ago, it was only at 600. We have massive growth. We have a great team, and we have offices in various locations around the world globally. We've also got now the largest penetration into Fortune 500 companies. Looking at Geotab, now Geotab comprises of two main things, the hardware piece and the software piece. So if we start with the hardware piece, I'd like to speak about the Geotab Go device very briefly. The Go device is the hardware piece that we use to measure what's happening inside the vehicle. This device can speak to any vehicle of any type, be it an internal combustion engine or an electric vehicle, and it acquires all of the data required that then feeds into our analytics software piece where we can process that data and analyze it to perform suitable requirements. One thing to note about the Geotab Go device is it has the richest data set, the richest engine data set. We get DTCs, we get engine and battery health data. For example, AdBlue is one of the important things. We also get oil level data, all of these requirements that are needed for maintenance, etc. Accelerometer, so Geotab has a great accelerometer, which is used for collision detection and notification, as well as some of our driver behavior requirements. And we also have fuel usage and fill-ups information, which is something which I will discuss further down in the presentation. Our security is top-notch. We pride ourselves at being very, very involved in providing great security for all our devices, great security for all the data, and this is a global thing. Second part of Geotab, which I said is really the brains of the outfit, is the Geotab software. We receive all this data from the Go device. Now, what do we do with that data? We need a software platform that can analyze this data, that can provide useful dashboards, useful reports, and useful analytics to fleet managers, to fleet customers, and to various other industry segments. The Geotab software platform, you can access all the data coming in from the Go device, and what we do is we try and provide them into the various different pillars that we have, some of which are mentioned here. I will discuss that in detail as we go forward. It also comes pre-embedded with over 38 data sets and over 1,000 reports, which you can access for free through the portal. Some of the key things that we do, which are every fleet manager's requirement, are the zones or geofences, the various grouping structures that we can provide, as well as our very powerful rules engine. Moving on to the pillars of innovation. Around 20 years ago, we thought what do? Most telematics companies use micro verticals. But what if we were to say have a customer of ours, but we also work with their competitor in the same industry segment? We decided back then in the day that we should start forming what we call the pillars of innovation. The first pillar that was formed was the productivity pillar. Now, the productivity pillar would be for GPS related data mainly, but this is not just dots on a map in the traditional sense. Some of the examples, like we have done a great study with the city of LA, where we've taken all of the Geotab data as well as the traffic light sequencing to monitor traffic flow. The advantage with this is you can now connect this to all of your CRM systems through our expandability pillar, which will be coming up soon, and our open APIs, and you can enrich yourself with this combination of data. Moving forward, what we then thought is the second pillar. What would that be? That would need to be safety, accelerometer data, and safety-related data. This is really important for collisions, for harsh accelerations, brakings, and driver behavior metrics. Seatbelt data was another key factor that we had as a requirement from one of our customers, which we've then embedded now into our systems and our Geotab Go device. And we receive seatbelt data, which is a key factor for all of our safety-related requirements. Our data science team, which comprises of over 40 to 50 people now, has taken all of this safety data, seatbelt data, and built some amazing studies, which you can easily see on our case studies page. With the state of New York and New York City, one of the interesting studies we've done, which is called Vision Zero, is to identify difficult intersections using our productivity pillar. And then we identify collision hotspots using the safety pillar, put the two together, and we can come up with some fantastic studies on these dangerous intersections, what the collision hotspots are, and fatality studies. The next pillar, which is now really going deep into engine data, is the optimization pillar. Productivity and safety are key. Add that to the optimization pillar, and you're now getting a really nice picture forming. We decided that predictive maintenance and maintenance of vehicles is something that is core to any business that has a fleet of vehicles. A fleet manager would not want to wait until a vehicle goes into maintenance or into a safety-related issue before he then needs to be reactive and start sending this to the workshops. So we've discovered that through our engine data, we can start forming predictive maintenance patterns through our My Geotab portal. And you don't just need to wait for the check engine light or an oil indication light to come up on your dashboard before you need to go and carry out any maintenance work. Battery failure is something that has been a very important study that we've done. One of our customers had a big issue with the battery failures, and we've come up with a very smart predictive algorithm for battery failures. Now, batteries are expensive. They are pretty hard to recycle, and you don't want to wait until the last moment when your battery fails before you need to go and change the batteries. So that's what the optimization pillar is about. And the fourth pillar of ours, which is called the compliance pillar. The compliance pillar was launched about 4 to 5 years ago when Geotab started coding our own electronic logging devices. And this combines the US mandate around logging and directing drivers, as well as in Europe, we've now got the digital tachograph. We have a personal/privacy mode and the vehicle walk around check, which is called the DVIR. The fifth pillar, which is one of my favorite pillars, the expandability pillar. Geotab prides itself at its open API platform. Now, we cannot think of everything. So we pride ourselves at being collaborative with our partners, with our ecosystem, and forming a lot of various different tools and algorithms that we can use from the rich engine data that we receive through Geotab to better help our society. We've leveraged various different partners and our ecosystem, and you can create some incredible platforms through this. Some of which you can see on our marketplace, which is a link we can send you later on, and we can also show it to you. But the topic of today is the sustainability pillar. This is our newest pillar, which was launched this year in January 2020 at our Connect event in San Diego. The sustainability pillar is being used for various different things, and the world today is going through a lot of transition, climate change, and also the current scenario that we're in. So we believe that the transition from fossil to EV is very important. And we're using what we call the sustainability pillar to place all of these different things that we believe would be very important for sustainability. What we believe the sustainability pillar can give you is to make progress towards sustainability targets with telematics. You can measure the impact of your fleet and take action to reduce your carbon footprint using Geotab data. Some of the key factors on this would be increasing fuel efficiency, vehicle idling, coaching drivers on best practices, which has a direct impact on your fuel efficiency, tracking CO2 emissions, and proactively managing vehicle repairs. All of this put together gives you a good story on what your current fleet is and what you need in that current fleet to improve your ecosystem and your environmental impact. The next piece that we have, which is a very, very key piece, is the electrification of your fleet. Now, Geotab has a couple of really interesting products that we've come up with, which were launched last year and this year, called the Electric Vehicle Suitability Assessment, and the fact that we support most EV makes and models. If we don't support something, our reverse engineering team will go out, figure out these vehicles, and try to enable support for them. We have a fantastic team of electric vehicle specialists working out of Canada that use their skills to track all of these vehicles. Some of the things that we can do with all of this data, I'd like to show you live on one of our dashboards. So this is one of our Geotab test environment databases. It's a preview server. So some of the information on here isn't out there as yet, but whatever I'm going to show you today is already out there in the market, and it's there in our databases. This Geotab database is filtered for EV and hybrid vehicles alone, since that's the topic of interest for today. Electric vehicle energy usage is something that we have come up with as an algorithm to figure out what is the equivalent miles per gallon electric versus miles per gallon for a regular internal combustion engine. On this page, you can see that Geotab takes all of the different vehicles, be it a plug-in hybrid vehicle or a battery electric vehicle, or even a Tesla, which is also battery electric, to find out what the miles per gallon usage is on those vehicles. What we can then do is we can also split them up as distance traveled, how much of fuel is actually used if it were to be a plug-in hybrid vehicle, and how much energy is used. Going a step further, what we can then do is we can figure out, if you click on EV charging, we can figure out where those vehicles have been charged, what the charging status was when they entered that point, how much they charged up to, and where they charged the vehicles. So this is very important in terms of understanding where your vehicles are being driven, where are they charging. You may decide to have only a particular charging point where you have a relationship with that charging point or a business relationship, and you'd like them to be charged only there. So that's where you look at this outside zones, where we can figure out whether the vehicle has been charged outside of a pre-described zone, how much the vehicle has been charged. These vehicles have been charged from 95% to 100%, and they've added 0.9 kilowatt hour of energy. This one, on the other hand, the VWE Golf, has charged from 16% to 100% and has added 28 kilowatts per hour of energy. Clicking on the map, you can then go into the map and see where that particular vehicle has been charged. So this is some of the really interesting pieces that we have on the electric vehicle charging. What you can then do is you can create dashboards. Now, dashboards are really the lifeblood for a lot of fleet managers. You'd like to see them in graphical interfaces. You'd like to see them on a front page. You'd like to see whether your trends are dropping, declining, increasing, or moving in a positive direction. So I'd like to take you through some of the very simple dashboards that I've put together, which would be suitable for this. Now, on the sustainability piece, a little story that I like to paint sometimes is, what do you do when you have a fleet of around 10 vehicles, right? So let's assume a fleet of 10 vehicles. You've got a fleet of 10 vehicles, which are a combination of diesel, petrol, and say plug-in hybrid, right? You want to go into that fleet and decide and determine what your average miles per gallon is. So that you can do based on this dashboard. I won't be clicking through the reports and going into detail. So what you'd like to do first is you'd like to see, what is my average fuel consumption? Once you've got the fuel consumption on the vehicles that I have, how much are they actually being driven? Are they being driven all 7 days of the week? Are they being driven for just 2 days of the week? How much time are they actually spending? So this gives you a good utilization of your vehicles, how much your vehicles are being driven and how much fuel they're using. What you then can do is also look at the highest idling duration. You then look at some of these vehicles are idling a bit too much. Idling is a bit of a waste of fuel. So I'd like to figure out what is good idling and what is bad idling. That piece directly links to your drivers. Your drivers can be coached and trained on better driving practices, and the impact of their driving can be shown using all of these reports. So the driver safety report and the safety scorecard is very, very important for that. Once you dive into the detailed metrics of the driver safety scorecard, you can determine which of your drivers are idling for too long, which ones are speeding for too long, which drivers are doing harsh acceleration maneuvers, again, direct impact to fuel based on harsh acceleration. So this piece together then gives you a good idea of, out of the 10 vehicles, which ones are being fairly efficient, which ones are inefficient, and which ones do I think I need to change. What you then also will need, based on the environmental impact, is the carbon emissions. Now, I believe last year in the UK, there were about 300 plus million metric tons of CO2 emitted. That doesn't sound great. So we would like to reduce that. And what we can do to reduce that for a start is to understand how much are we emitting? How much is my fleet actually emitting? And that's what the CO2 emissions report goes. Again, diving deep into it, it gives you better metrics of each vehicle, when, how, where. We have a couple of other interesting reports, which I spoke about through the other pillars, like the AdBlue, which would fall under the optimization pillar for predictive maintenance, engine DTCs as well. Luckily, none of the vehicles in this fleet have any DTCs at the moment. What we've then done is to provide you with better metrics for all of these various things that I've spoken about through our dashboard. We've come up with a new dashboard called the Green Fleet Dashboard. Now, this dashboard was launched yesterday, I believe. So it is still in the first transition stage. We still don't have all of the units that are in place, so please don't mind that. But I will go into the Green Fleet Dashboard and show you very quickly what we can do with that. So the Green Fleet Dashboard is effectively the dashboard that I showed you a while ago, but with much nicer metrics, with greater trend lines. And this is something that can be downloaded directly off our marketplace for free. So you don't need to go in and create these dashboards and reports of your own accord. You can go straight into the marketplace that we have, which I will show you in a minute on how to download the Green Fleet Dashboard. And you can add the Green Fleet Dashboard to any of your databases. This then looks at the vehicles in your database, and it brings out all these various metrics that are used to fill in to the sustainability pillar. So starting with the Green Fleet Dashboard, I'll just scroll quite quickly through it so we have enough time for questions. What you can do is you can see your fleet's current fuel economy versus its 3-week average. How much CO2 is your fleet emitting at the moment? And in this lower down in the page, you've got two options. You can either look at the fuel and emissions monitor or the driver behavior. What that then gives you is the impact of the driver behavior towards your fuel and emissions. So on the fuel and emissions monitor, we go quickly through this. The average fuel economy is a trend line that you could see based on what was your average fuel economy last week, what is it this week, as well as for this particular week, you can go through each single day. Statistics-wise, you can look at the number of miles that have been driven, the gallons, the tons of CO2. So this would be a great dashboard that would be up on your front page, where you can see the trend line going down on CO2 and your direct carbon footprint into the environment. We've also got some benchmarks on here that we have presented, whereas your fleet, and it's split up into the buses, the multi-purpose vehicles, passenger vehicles, etc., all the different categories of vehicles that you have. Weekly CO2 emissions is another great thing that you need. So this directly tells you, like, from the 16th of April to the 17th of April, I've come down in CO2, so I've obviously done something right. You can then dive deeper into the dashboard and analytics page, pick up the report for that particular vehicle, have a look and see what impact that vehicle has had and why your CO2 has gone down. That is a learning curve that you can then use to move forward. Idle time versus drive time is again a very, very important thing, which has a direct impact on CO2 emissions and also has an economical impact apart from just CO2. So this is a very cool dashboard that we've released as of yesterday. And moving up, I'll go back to the driver behavior trends. What you can see here is how many exceptions have your drivers and how many rules have been violated in terms of acceleration, braking, cornering, idling, and speeding. This is also similar to our driver safety dashboard that we have. We then dive deeper into each of the individual rule violations: acceleration, speeding, braking, cornering, and idling. So this again gives you a great idea of what your drivers have been doing, how they've been driving, and what that impact would be. So once you've done all of this analysis, you may then decide to figure out whether you want to transition your fleet into an electric vehicle fleet or a plug-in hybrid fleet, battery electric, or a combination of the two. So for that, what Geotab has then done is we've come up with a product called the Electric Vehicle Suitability Assessment, which I'm going to show you in a minute, which determines the best fit electric vehicle for your fleet. Now, this product takes into account all the different vehicles in your fleet, be it electric, hybrid, internal combustion, whatever it may be. It takes all of them into account. It monitors their usage, their utilization, their CO2 impact, their fuel impact, and it then advises you based on the market you're in. So the UK, for instance, it advises you on what electric vehicles are available in the UK that would have a direct positive impact on your fleet. The EVSA, again, the EVSA is a tool that you can download straight off our marketplace and add it to any database. I've already carried out a few assessments. They are fairly old. I apologize for that. But what the EVSA does, in a couple of very quick steps, you can explore all of the different EV recommendations. So this takes into account my vehicles are traveling X amount of miles, so these electric vehicles would be very suitable for me, how much I'm saving, and what the environmental impact is. And if you run an assessment, which I won't do right now, but I'll show you a previous assessment that I've run. If you run an assessment, it gives you a breakdown of the vehicles that you have, how many of these vehicles you should change, whether you have a direct electric vehicle fit. So you may have a small van which does not have a direct replacement electric vehicle, which is not going to be suitable for you because you're carrying light goods. So that's where you see the no EV fit. This then gives you a breakdown into the lifetime savings that you could make based on what our assessment is and based on what would happen if you were to choose not to change to an electric vehicle. You could also have a look at the annual fuel and electricity costs. So fuel versus electric, how much would I be spending on fuel and how much would I spend on electric? What would be the combination of the two? If you were to have a relationship with an electricity company, you can input those daytime charging allowances as well on the left-hand column, which would then skew these figures and alter these figures based on what you need. The CO2, which is one of the topics of today. So the carbon footprint, how much CO2 you're producing in tons, in metric tons, and how much you'd be saving if you were to switch to electric. So the electric vehicle suitability assessment, as the story goes, and as I started, you'd analyze your fleet, you'd see how much fuel you're using, how much you're idling, what your drivers are doing. You'd go back, you'd coach your drivers, see a positive impact, measure the CO2, decide to change to electric vehicles, and that's the complete story. What we've also done now is with various big data insights and smart city insights, we've taken all of this Geotab data, which is over 2 million vehicles as of January 2020. We've taken over 2 million vehicles worth of data. We've thrown all of that into our big data pool, and that can be used to form very fantastic and interesting smart city analysis. So you could take the big data pool that we have from all our vehicles and the vehicle data. You can form your analysis. You can combine that with environmental analysis by cities, councils, governments, and you then have the relationship between the vehicles and the data for the environment. On the marketplace, now the marketplace is definitely something I'd like to show you through. So these 4 pieces that I mentioned over here are available on our marketplace for free. All you need to do is go into the marketplace, click through them, and they get added onto your fleet's dashboard or your fleet's My Geotab portal. And they directly give you an analysis on CO2, idling trends, driver safety scorecard, and of course, our new Green Fleet dashboard, which I've shown you. So I'd like to take you very quickly through the marketplace to show you how this would be done. So in all your dashboards, you should have a marketplace that you can click through. So I sorted by newest because that's our latest stuff. And when you look, for instance, at the Green Fleet dashboard, you click through the Green Fleet dashboard and you install it. It is currently installed on this, so the only option coming up is the uninstall option. What you'll also get with this is various images and how it works, the features and the benefits, and a user guide. So very, very interesting dashboards and reports that we can download straight off our marketplace, which will be very vital and useful to your fleet. Some interesting case studies. So all of the CO2 impact, all of these idling trends, electric vehicle trends, how have they actually impacted our customers? So I've got 2 interesting case studies, which we will be able to send you the links to, and I can also show you where to find them if you wanted to search on your own. So one of the interesting case studies is a company called Newt, which does last mile deliveries. They use electric vehicles. What Newt wanted to do was to understand, based on the charging infrastructure that they use, they wanted to understand, of the vehicles that I have that are being used, I want to know how much electricity consumption is actually happening with the vehicles, where are they being charged, and how much are they being charged. So they leverage 2 of our interesting pillars. They leverage our sustainability pillar, which has all of our electric vehicle data, and they leveraged our expandability pillar, which is our APIs. What they've done is they've created an API that takes all of Geotab's vehicle data from the vehicles that they use, and it's taken the data into their system, which is their charging infrastructure system, and it's given them a complete picture of how much electricity, where it's being charged, am I using the right charging infrastructure, am I using the ones that I have signed up for. So this picture totally gives them a great solution towards the commercial viability and also to be completely emission-free. Now, Sam Clark, the founder of Newt, was very kind to give us a quote for this presentation. There is also a link to the case study at the bottom. So please, I do encourage you to please go and read that case study. It's a very interesting case study for a fleet size of about 70 odd vehicles, fully electric vehicles. So it gives you an understanding of how good Geotab's data is and how rich the data is that you can collect from an electric vehicle. The other case study, so this is a slightly different case study. This is not particularly EV related, but it's the driver behavior piece that also affects sustainability. So CMS was started in America, and they're now headquartered in London. So this was for a fleet size of around 30 odd vehicles. And what they've done is they've taken Geotab's data to improve fleet performance, which is done for CMS via the vehicle and driver safety. So they've taken predictive maintenance algorithms that we use, and they've predicted what the vehicle's status is, what the vehicle's health is. Are there any trouble codes that have been flagged? What is the oil level on the vehicle? What is the maintenance schedule on the vehicle? Is it okay? Can I be predictively maintaining my vehicles instead of reactively maintaining my vehicles? And then they've taken the driver safety scorecard. So they leverage one of our marketplace partners, which is a driver gamification app. And they have leveraged that to determine how much are my drivers driving harshly, and how can I use that information to proactively coach my drivers to start driving more productively. So this, again, Sean McMullen, who is the General Manager of Operations for CMS, was again very kind to give us a great quote on this. I do encourage you to read this piece on our case study page. What I'd like to do before I quickly move forward is to very briefly show you our case studies and where you can find them. So just to show you how simple it is, Geotab case studies and success stories, you can go straight into this. You can filter them by fleet size, by fleet focus, and you can have a look at all the different case studies that we have. Very interesting case studies, very interesting success stories, and we would love to have more on there, which we're working very hard towards. That is pretty much the end of my presentation. Earth Day is tomorrow, I believe, the 22nd of April. Reducing the environmental impact is something that we should all be wary of. We all need to be cognizant of that, and we should all play our part as much as we can. For sure, Geotab is. I personally am very interested in that. Where I come from, the environment is very poor, and I would love to be able to improve the environmental conditions. So let's all act now. Let's all act together, and we'd love to get in touch with whoever is on this call. If you've got any ideas, any interesting feedback for us. Over to you, Rob.
Thank you, Abs. That was an exceptional presentation. I'm sure everybody thoroughly enjoyed it. So we have a few questions. The first question we have for you, Abs, is how often can you run an EVSA?
An EVSA can be run whenever you want. That's the best part of it. Our recommendation is once you've got a fleet of vehicles and once you've got the data coming through, we recommend what we call a blind test period. So let the vehicles run, let the data come through. At least a month's worth of data is what we recommend. 3 months is the optimum minimum for you to get the best suitable data from your EVSA studies, but you can run them every day. I don't know if I showed you, but on the page I was showing you, I think I ran 3 in the span of an hour, but you probably get the same data coming through.
Good, thank you. And we have an excellent question from Andrew Pierce of Level Telematics. Is the Green Fleet dashboard auto setup, or do you have to add parameters for different vehicles?
The Green Fleet dashboard is auto setup, Andrew. You just need to download it off the marketplace. It looks into your fleet on that particular dashboard and delivers the metrics as required. As mentioned earlier, the units of measurement are coming in as a toggle button, so we are improving the dashboard. This is the initial version.
Thank you. We have another one now from Haitam Parmar. The question is, how do you gather data from multiple EV chargers? Are there specific communication standards you make use of?
That is a very good question. In terms of EV charging, what we have done is we have taken our vehicle data instead, and we look at charging parameters for AC and DC current. We can also do fast charging, and our electric vehicle engineers have come up with an algorithm which is constantly improving day by day to be able to provide and gather how much in terms of kilowatt hours is being added. In terms of actually speaking to the charging station itself, that would probably have to be done through an API. And if you would like further information on that, we could certainly get you in touch with one of our electric vehicle experts for that.
Thank you, Abs. The next question is, how long does the EVSA take to run?
Now, that EVSA would be very dependent on the size of your fleet for a start. But on average, from the EVSAs that I have run for a fleet of about 50 odd vehicles, it takes about 10 minutes. So you click it through, you run all your records, you put whatever extra information you'd like in there, walk away, make a cup of coffee, and it should be ready for you in about 10 minutes.
Excellent, thank you. The next question is, do we have the ability to advise on energy infrastructure?
So based on the information that we gather, we don't currently have any specific advisories in place for that. It is something we're working on. It was a point that has been raised internally, and we would love to work with companies that have prior knowledge to energy infrastructure to form an advisory board of some sort, or to form some kind of panel where we can get a bit more information. Again, further information, I could put you in touch with our electric vehicle specialists.
Yes, and I'll add to that question that we do have EV specialist resellers who have that infrastructure advice. Level Telematics, for example, do have that end-to-end ability, so we can put anybody in touch with them that has questions accordingly. And we have one final question I think we've just got enough time for. And that question is, can we speak to the case studies, which I can answer for Abs? And the answer is yes, please feel free to reach out to them. We would also advise the specific reseller involved. You can speak to them directly too and gain whatever advice is necessary. So with no further questions to ask everyone, I would like to thank you all for your attendance. And at this point, we will conclude the presentation and ask you all to stay green. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you again.